What's going on, everyone? Today, we'll be exploring the importance of sleep and what would happen to your brain if you tried to go without it. Let's face it, we've all had times in our lives where we had to pull all-nighters, especially if you have crazy work projects. Don't even get me started. And I'm sure we've heard the stories of people who have gone without sleep for extended periods of time, including the story of the Russian sleep experiment, a military-sanctioned sleep experiment where Russian prisoners were kept in a sealed gas chamber to keep them awake for 30 days. After 15 days, the gas stimulant was replaced with fresh air. Yet, the prisoners did not want to go back to sleep, and this started all kinds of chaos, resulting in powerful aggression, where some prisoners tore away at their flesh and bones. Although this story is fiction, the devastating effects of sleep deprivation are pretty scary. Really quick, before we get to the actual consequences of sleep deprivation, if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Abdullah, and I make videos on productivity and success. So hit the subscribe button and let's move on. So why do we sleep? On average, people sleep for about 8 to 10 hours a day. And to be honest, scientists are still trying to figure out the exact reasons for why we sleep that long. I mean, spending 1/3 of our lives unconscious kind of feels like a huge waste of time, right? Especially considering being unconscious in the dark for hours doesn't seem very safe when there may be predators lurking about. So what exactly happens to our brains when we sleep? Let's dive right into the science. During sleep, the brain undergoes a process called glymphatic clearance, which is responsible for removing toxins and waste products from the brain. You're basically deep cleaning your brain throughout the night and getting rid of all that brain gunk that leaves you feeling tired, disoriented, and confused. There's actually a network of vessels that run throughout the brain and is responsible for flushing out metabolic waste that accumulates throughout the day. You may be surprised to find out that your brain actually secretes an Alzheimer's-causing toxin throughout the day. It's a protein called beta amyloid. When beta amyloid builds up in the brain, it can form plaques that can interfere with normal brain function. Luckily, while we're sleeping, our brain works hard to clear all of that out. Have you ever walked into a room and forgot why you went there in the first place? Or have you ever searched for your glasses and realized they were right on your face? Well, this could be due to lack of sleep. Sleep is super essential for solidifying our memory. During sleep, the brain processes and solidifies memories that are formed while we are awake. This process involves strengthening all the neural connections you made during the day and transferring that information from short-term to long-term memory storage. So what are the effects of sleep deprivation on the brain? After pulling an all-nighter and skipping out on your 8 hours of sleep, you might actually feel pretty great. Your brain will release extra dopamine, which is a happy-making chemical in your brain. You might feel more positive, energetic, and optimistic. This may seem great, but it's all downhill from there. As you continue to get more and more sleep deprived, you'll start to notice some nasty effects as parts of your brain slowly begin to shut down. After just 24 hours of no sleep, aside from being physically exhausted, you'll also notice significant decrease in cognitive function. You won't be able to focus or pay attention, and you'll start to develop some pretty drastic mood swings. You'll also have impaired decision making, poor memory retention, and slow reaction time. Yikes. Imagine trying to drive home when everything feels like it's in slow motion. You can't remember which lane you're supposed to be in, and you were supposed to stop at that red light like 3 minutes ago. Sounds like a recipe for disaster. But hey, if you were able to make it 24 hours without sleep, people will definitely start to take notice. Your eyes and face will start to look sunken in, and your zombie-like appearance may turn people away. It's not the best look. I mean, they call it beauty sleep for a reason. By the time you get to 48 hours, your symptoms will continue to get worse and worse. At this point, you may start to have hallucinations, paranoia, and sleep deprivation psychosis. This is when the true dangers of sleep deprivation begin to kick in. And sometimes it's hard to trust what's real and what's not. You may feel like you're losing your mind. The exact cause of sleep deprivation psychosis is unknown, and scientists are still studying it to this day. If that's not scary enough, by the 72-hour mark, the effects on the brain can be severe and potentially life-threatening. After such a long time without sleep, your organ functions will slow down, and you'll have more inflammation in the body. Chronic inflammation leads to all types of diseases, like heart disease, diabetes, and autoimmune autoimmune disorders. One of the most serious risks of prolonged sleep deprivation is the potential risk for seizures. Seizures are caused by abnormal electrical activity in the brain, and lack of sleep can be a major cause of it. Alright, if you haven't fallen asleep yet, let's take a look at a few examples of people who have gone without sleep for extended periods of time, and the consequences that they faced. Let's talk about a kid named Randy Gardner, a high school student who stayed awake for 11 days as part of a science project in 1964. At first, Randy was pretty excited to be part of this experiment, and he didn't really see any problems with it. But by the end of the experiment, he was experiencing severe hallucinations and intense paranoia. While hallucinating, he heard music, bells, and buzzing sounds. He also saw objects and people that weren't actually there, and slowly began losing his mind. Everyday objects around him seemed eerie, strange, and different. His toothbrush had eyes, and his breakfast whispered to him. He also reported seeing a street sign moving and melting into the ground. The strangest thing that he reported was that he felt like he was constantly being tickled or touched by invisible hands. That sounds pretty creepy. After the experiment, it took Randy several days to return to normal. Another person who went through a sleep experiment was Peter Tripp, a radio DJ who stayed awake for 201 hours as part of a publicity stunt in 1959. During the stunt, he experienced intense hallucination and delusion. He even attempted to shave his mustache and his beard while on air, without even realizing what he was doing. So throughout the experiment, Tripp was monitored continuously by a team of doctors and researchers who kept detailed records of his physical and his mental conditions. Tripp was allowed to walk around and move freely throughout the experiment, but he was not allowed to take any stimulants or drugs to help him stay awake. As the experiment progressed, Tripp's behavior began to change dramatically. He became more and more irritable, paranoid, confused, and began to experience vivid hallucination. At one point, he believed that his fingers were shrinking and disappearing, and some people witnessed him angrily shouting at his hands. Over time, there were many complications to the experiment because Tripp became convinced that his co-workers were trying to sabotage him. Tripp's cognitive state was going down a slippery slope, with his ability to think clearly and perform basic tasks rapidly deteriorating over time. He struggled to remember names and basic information, and his speech became slurred and incoherent. Tripp would also laugh uncontrollably for extended periods of time. It would take several minutes before he could return to normal. After the stunt was over, he suffered from severe depression and had to be hospitalized. Most people are unlikely to go without sleep for such extended periods of time, but we've all experienced sleep deprivation here and there. If you're wondering about the long-term effects of sleep deprivation, the list seems to go on and on. Chronic sleep deprivation increases your risk of developing conditions such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. It can also cause neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's, severe depression, and anxiety disorders. All that being said, how much sleep do we actually need to be productive and healthy? Too little sleep can lead to sleep deprivation, but did you know that too much sleep can also cause several health problems? The answer, of course, varies from person to person. Generally speaking, adults need between 7 to 10 hours of sleep each night. However, some people may require more or less, and it all depends on factors such as age, health, and lifestyle. Now that we know how much sleep we need, let's talk about some tips for actually getting that much needed shut-eye. Here are a few strategies that can actually help you get the sleep that you need. Number 1, stick to a regular sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. I know this seems kind of hard because we all love to stay up pretty late, but this helps regulate your body's internal clock and can really improve the quality of your sleep. Number 2, create the perfect sleep environment. Some people love sleeping with a white noisemaker and a few nightlights, while others need it to be completely dark and silent. Create a sleep environment that works perfectly for you. Number 3, limit caffeine intake. Personally, I love coffee, but did you know that caffeine can stay in your system for 8 hours? So let's try to skip that afternoon cup of coffee. Number 4, exercise regularly. Exercise can help improve the quality of your sleep. I know I always get the best sleep on days that I hit the gym, but make sure not to exercise too close to your bedtime because that might mess with your sleep. Number 5, avoid large meals and fluids before bedtime. As much as you might love your late dinners and midnight snacking, try to have dinner just a little bit earlier. An overly full belly can kickstart your digestive system, making it pretty hard to fall asleep. Number 6, avoid electronics before bedtime. I know a lot of people love to scroll on their phone or watch YouTube videos before bed, but did you know that the blue light emitted by electronic devices can actually mess with your sleep hormones? And lastly, number 7, seek professional help. If you're somebody who has struggled with sleep problems for a long period of time, you might want to consider talking to a doctor or or a sleep specialist. They can help diagnose and treat any underlying sleep disorders. Getting enough sleep is extremely important for your productivity and general well-being. Going without sleep for 72 hours or longer can have severe and life-threatening consequences. While most people are unlikely to go without sleep for such extended period of time, it's important to prioritize sleep as an essential component of overall health and well-being. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell icon button for more videos like this one. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.